Alright, hey guys, today's reading is going to be on the story of Icarus and Daedalus in our responsibility series. The famous Greek myth reminds us exactly why young people have a responsibility to obey their parents, for the same good reason that parents have a responsibility to guide their children. There are many things adults know that young people do not. In the ancient Greek dramatist Aslasius put it this way: obedience is the mother of success and is wedded to safety. Safe childhoods and successful upbringing require a measure of obedience, as Icarus finds out the hard way. Daedalus was the most skillful builder and inventor of his day in ancient Greece. He built magnificent palaces and gardens, and created wonderful works of art throughout the land. His statues were so beautifully crafted that they were taken for living beings, and it was believed that they could see and walk about. People said someone as cunning as Daedalus must have learned the secrets of his craft from the gods themselves. Now across the sea, on the island of Crete, lived a king named Minos. King Minos had a terrible monster that was half bull and half man, called the Minotaur, and he needed some place to keep it. When he heard of Daedalus' cleverness, he invited him to come to his country and build a prison to hold the beast. So Daedalus and his young son, Icarus, sailed to Crete, and there Daedalus built the famous labyrinth, a maze of winding passages so tangled and twisted that whomever went in, and there they decided to put the Minotaur. When the labyrinth was finished, Daedalus wanted to sail back to Greece with his son, but Minos had made up his mind to keep them in Crete. He wanted Daedalus to stay and invest and invent more wondrous devices for him, so he locked them both in a high tower beside the sea. The king knew Daedalus was clever enough to escape from the tower, so he also ordered that every ship he searched for stowaways before sailing from Crete. Other men may have given up, but not Daedalus. From his high tower he watched the seagulls drifting on the ocean breeze. Minos may control the land and the sea, he said, but he does not rule the air. We'll go that way. So he summoned all the secrets of his craft and set to work. Little by little he gathered a great pile of feathers of all sizes, and he fastened them together with a thread and molded them with wax. And at last he had 2 great wings like those of the seagulls, and he tied them to his shoulders. And after 1 or 2 clumsy efforts, he found that by waving his arms he could rise into the air. He held himself aloft, wavering this way and that with the wind, until he taught himself how to glide and soar on the currents as gracefully as any seagull. Next, he built a second pair of wings for his son Icarus. He taught the boy how to move the feathers and rise a few feet into the air, and then let him fly back and forth across the room. Then he taught him how to ride the air currents, climbing in circles and hang in the winds. They practiced together until Icarus was ready. Finally, the day came when the winds were just right. Father and son strapped on their wings and prepared to fly home. "Remember all I've taught you," told Daedalus to Icarus. "Above all, remember you must not fly too high or too low. If you were to fly too low, the ocean sprays will clog your wings and make them too heavy. If you were to fly too high, the heat of the sun will melt the wax and your wings will fall apart. Stay close to me and you will be fine." Up they rose, the boy after his father, and the hateful ground of Crete sank far beneath them as they flew through the windows. As they flew, the plowman stopped his work to gaze, and the shepherd leaned on his staff to watch them. And people came running out of their houses to catch a glimpse of the two figures high above the treetops. Surely they were gods, Apollo perhaps, with maybe Cupid after him. At first the flight seemed terrible to both Daedalus and Icarus. The wide, endless sky dazed them, and even the quickest glance down always made their brains reel. But gradually they grew used to the riding among the clouds, and they lost their fear. Icarus felt the wind fill his wings and lift him higher and higher, and began to sense a freedom he had never known before. He looked down with great excitement at all the islands that they passed, and their people, and all the broad ships and blue sea spread out beneath him. He soared higher and higher, forgetting his father's warning, and forgot everything in the world but joy. "Come back," Daedalus called frantically. "You're flying too high. Remember the sun. Come down, come down." But Icarus thought of nothing of it but his own excitement and glory, and longed to fly as close as he could to the heavens. Nearer and nearer he came to the sun, and slowly his wings began to soften as the max began to melt. One by one the feathers began to fall and scatter in the air, and suddenly the max melted all at once. Icarus felt himself falling, and fluttered his arms as fast as he could, but no feathers remained to hold in the air. He cried out for his father, but it was too late, and with a scream he fell from his lofty height and plunged into the sea, disappearing beneath the waves. Daedalus circled over the water again and again, but he saw nothing but feathers floating on the waves, and he knew his son was gone. At last the body came to the surface, and he managed to pluck it from the sea. With a heavy burden and a broken heart, Daedalus slowly flew away. When he reached land, he buried his son and built a temple to the gods. Then he hung up his wings and never flew again.